Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to Fridays with Sandy. That would be Sandy Kreisberg, HBSGuru.com
Shalom,
founder.
hello.
There he is in Boston, where I
Adios,
think the
shalom.
snow is piled up very high.
I'm iced in here, yeah.
We have someone in a warmer part of the country, actually in San Antonio today. Let me introduce him as Merdul, who is a strategy and planning advisor for Exxon Mobil. He has a very impressive 750 GMAT and an equally impressive overall GPA of 3.77. Let's round it up to 3.8. It's a Bachelor of Science in Computer Science from UT Austin with a minor in Business Administration at McCombs. He graduated with high honors, magna cum laude. And let me just say, he's had a great career. He's very young still. He'll be 25 soon, within a week or two. But he joined ExxonMobil as a business analyst and was on the executive track toward this new role as strategy and planning advisor. He wants a mock interview from Sandy. So clearly he's a masochist who's willing to be grilled. And so, Sandy, why don't you go to it?
We're going to do a combined mock interview here for Harvard Business School type questions and Stanford Business School type questions. The Harvard questions are questions off your resume, like tell me why you went to this college, describe what you're doing now, tell me about your industry. The Stanford questions are so-called behavioral questions. It's like, tell me about a time you were really embarrassed, or tell me about a time you slept with your supervisor's family member, okay? So we're gonna do a combination of those and get going. Okay, Merdul, very often the first question at HBS and other schools, so this is an important answer to have mastered. The question is, hey there, could you tell me what you're doing now?
Yeah, hey, John, Sandy, really excited to be here. Thank you. I'm really excited for this opportunity. I'm currently a strategy and planning advisor at ExxonMobil, where I work with a senior partner level type person, managing his budget and managing his strategic priorities, moving into 2022, 2023, and planning with his $350 million budget and his 900 staff.
Okay, John, what do you think of that answer?
I think it's good. Number one, he gave a sense of the scope and the size of responsibility that of a person that he's reporting directly
to.
Yeah,
I agree. I know what you're going to say. Yeah. I think it sounded, look, it's obviously, I think it sounded a little too pat, and it was actually hard to understand because the way you delivered it. If someone wrote that out and said, this is what the guy does, you go, sure. But try and make it more conversational. Particularly for this answer, you're allowed to be a little scripted since what you do is kind of, there is a job description. Very often they ask questions about your industry. They say, well, tell me what's new in oil and gas.
Yeah, I think of late there's been a more focus on renewables and moving towards that space. I know that's been a topic of conversation for a while now, but I think now the companies are starting to put the money into that space and really invest there. Especially post-pandemic, there's been a lot of talk about diversifying and really making an impact on sustainability and those efforts. So that's a really exciting effort that's really coming into progress right now.
Good. That's a good answer. What's new is, well, there's a focus on sustainability and renewables. The industry is, obsessed with this, as is the rest of the country.
Sandy, I had a thought on the earlier question, and I wanted to pass this by you. Obviously, our candidate here is an Indian male who majored in computer science. The fact that his current job has to do with overseeing financials takes him out of the traditional bucket of Indian males in computer science. Is that something that he should have emphasized in describing what he does now?
Yes and no. That's baked into his application, and the readers will be hip to it. For the interview, the purpose of the interview is to answer their questions and let them know two things. You can speak English, which Mardal you can do.
Very well.
And that you'd be someone that would be acceptable to sit next to. Okay, so you're not trying to do not sell. That is do not sell in an interview. So what you're suggesting is a little bit of salesmanship.
Yeah, it's positioning him and getting him out of the big pool of Indian IT people.
If you want to do it, do it. Clarity, I cannot stress this, man. The reason you flunk an HBS interview or other interviews is you either sound scripted or you're not clear and you ramble on. Okay? Clarity is almost more important than content. They already know enough about you. They just want to see whether you can answer questions.
Right.
This is real important. People have a hard time internalizing this. All right, let's keep rolling here. Tell me about your decision. This is a very popular question. Tell me about your decision to attend UT Austin.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I went to high school in San Antonio, Texas. So obviously UT Austin was a very popular school in the area and had a really distinguished program across all majors, but specifically for computer science, it was really distinguished. And the opportunity to take some of those really theoretical classes was compelling. But the dish was also a financial one. I had a sizable scholarship coming into my first year, so really wanted to take advantage of that and excel in that environment.
Okay, that's a good answer. You've been paying attention to these prior videos where that is the model answer. Why did you go to UT Texas? You could make it more conversational and quick. You see, that's your problem. You're still a little scripted. Well, there's a couple of reasons. I went to high school in Texas. A lot of people go there. It's a great school. I had friends who went there. They gave me a scholarship, and I was excited by their computer program course.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I mean, mine was a little rat-a-tat-tat, but you get the difference.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
What was unexpected once you got there, even though it was nearby and you had friends there?
Yeah, one of the surprises was really the diversity of the student population. I think growing up in San Antonio, we had a very homogenous population in our high school. So coming to
hey, John, why is this a stupid answer?
Really? I don't know. I mean, tell me.
Well, what had you been expecting?
That is a good point. That is a good point. Let me tackle it a different way, and let me get your
Okay,
feedback.
the question was, what was unexpected?
Surprised you, yeah. What was unexpected?
An acceptable answer is, and this is probably true, what was unexpected was there were a lot of kids from New York.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's an acceptable answer.
Let me take it a different way, and I'd love to get your feedback on this. But again, a risky answer. But I think one of the things that really surprised me was the academic rigor. Growing up in high school, things just came, really easy. But when I got to UT, I was, surrounded by some of the best, and that really that humbled me and took my, academic prowess.
Yeah, that's an okay answer. What surprised me was that everybody was smart, but there were a lot of people who were really smart.
Okay, yeah, a better way to phrase it.
I wasn't used to being in the middle of the class in high school, and I found myself, not the star I was. So that was unexpected.
Although his grades in graduating with high honors, maybe in the beginning that was true, and you had to work harder to get to what you did.
Right. Let's keep going here. What if you had to do? This is another favorite question. If you had to do your college career over again, what would you do differently?
I think the first 2 years of college, I took a lot of computer science and very technical courses. And towards my third and fourth year, I spent a lot of time, diversifying and taking a lot more liberal arts courses and business courses, and I ended up minoring in business. So I think if I could redo the whole experience, I think I'd delve into those non-STEM courses a little bit earlier on and become a little bit more well-rounded, and really just take advantage of the opportunity of having so many different course offerings by some really esteemed lecturers.
Great that answer, John.
I think that's an A+ answer. Sandy doesn't.
So the answer basically is, if you had to do a college career, let me say this. The typical answer is either spend a semester abroad, okay, if that works for you. It doesn't work for everybody, but if that works for you, that's an acceptable answer. Or to learn how to code. That's a very typical answer. If you had your college experience to do over again, what would you do differently? And people say, I would take some basic computer science courses and learn how to code. Okay, that obviously doesn't.
Not good for him, since he's a computer science major.
Yeah, so that was the intent, was to show that, again, take me out of that engineering bucket and to show that, well-rounded leadership, liberal arts kind of background. But
well, but the way it was, what you did was, this is under a high-powered microscope. What you did was basically a brag answer. They asked, what would you do differently? And you said, it's acceptable to say, what I would do differently is to take more liberal arts courses or take more foreign language courses. But what you said is, I would take those earlier, okay? Which sounds a little bit of BS, since you had an unbelievable number of STEM requirements, right?
Gotcha.
So
that totally makes sense.
So they'll never unravel this. They'll never articulate this to you, but in the back of their mind, they're saying that was a little sneaky answer. Okay.
Gotcha.
Wow. It's amazing to me how many potential pitfalls there can be.
Yeah, it's what happens when you're trying to sell. And that's what happens when you're trying to sell, or you just get lost. That's right. What would you do? Okay, let's talk about Exxon Mobil. What do you want this is a very popular question. What do you want? Exxon Mobil is, colossal. What do you want your classmates to know about it?
Yeah, to your point, we operate across the world. We have our own ventures, and we work, with other companies across the world, all throughout the oil and gas process, from upstream, where we're getting the oil out of the ground, midstream, where we're transporting that, and then downstream, where we're transforming that oil and converting it to something more useful for everyday products. So really, we leverage all parts of the supply chain. Something that I'd like my peers to know is, over the past few years, we've been undergoing a very large transformation that was accelerated by the pandemic. And there's been a lot more diversification, as I mentioned earlier. And now we're starting to really put the money behind our words of working on sustainability and working on environmental efforts. So that's something I've been really proud of, and that's something that
you're a guy who gets to the answer at the end.
Gotcha.
You got to I've said this before, I'll say it again. To the extent you can, answer the question immediately. Okay. So if the question is, what do you want your classmates to know about Exxon Mobil? They already know what Exxon Mobil is. Okay. So a good answer is, I want them to know that we're not the bad guys they may think we are. Lately, we've gone on this whole sustainability jag, and there's a new CEO who's really behind it. And we've got 3 projects, A, B, and C.
Gotcha.
Good. Tell me about what you did last week. Tell me something you did last week.
That is a good question. Yeah, so recently we've been working.
Yeah, I couldn't answer it, but
yeah, sometimes I forget what I ate for breakfast. But think about work. Something I did last week was recently we've been dealing with a lot of attrition, and that's people walking away for various reasons. That's something that's been obviously everybody's experiencing that. So last week I was working on an initiative to kind of really pinpoint some of the sources of the attrition and work on what are some ways that the organization can mitigate that and reduce the kind of effects of that. So really we're detailing how and where we work.
okay. Once again, you've
2 month backstory.
Yeah, answer the question immediately. We're working on attrition. People are leaving the job because of COVID and because of personal reasons. There's a staffing shortage across America, and we're working on it. And then they'll say, well, what are you doing about it?
Okay, let me try that again then. Yeah, so last week—
Don't try it again. Let's answer the new question. Oh, so you're working on attrition. What's the company doing? Well, so, what are the ideas around, managing the problem?
Well, part of the reason that people are leaving is definitely some of the financial aspects. So we're working on that. And we're also working on maintaining our career-long progression. So really working on how somebody can really grow within the company and make an impact throughout their career with us. Something that's really important to people these days is really having an impact on where they work and caring about what they do. So making that more of a priority.
What's the attrition you're worried about? Who are you? Give me some specifics here. Attrition of whom? Like
some of our best people are leaving to big tech firms. They're leaving to—
what are their job descriptions? Are they financial people or operators or oil and gas guys or just general managerial types?
Across the board, but some of our best leaders are leaving, and these aren't people who are intrinsically working on oil and gas every day. It's more of the people leaders and the strategic vision.
Where are they going?
They're working to move to companies like Microsoft. That's a very big employer these days. Microsoft and Amazon are the big two poachers nowadays. They're excited about the opportunity to work on some of those tech problems that are exciting. Obviously, big tech is a very big space these days. So that's kind of the excitement that they're moving towards.
Good. What can a big boring company that nobody likes like Exxon Mobil do about it?
Exactly. That's a really good point, and that's what we're tackling right now. A lot of it really comes down to making sure we're adding some value to the community, and it's not just about getting as much oil out of the ground as we can. And
that's not going to keep me from going to Amazon.
I mean, it's either give you some purpose and excite you about your current job, or pay you more. And we're working on some combination of that.
Well, once again, what did you do?
I talked my way into the answer.
You're a smart guy. You're a smart guy. We're doing a couple of things, one of which is we're paying people more. There's a movement to do that. And the second thing is we're trying to, we're doing some surveys, et cetera. We're trying to make their jobs, give them more authority or wider jurisdictions. So pay and make the job nicer.
Say it right out front. Got it.
You're pretty good at getting it the second time.
Yeah.
That French saying about thoughts you had after you left, thoughts on the staircase. John, you're a international polylingual.
No, I don't know.
French phrase that means something I wish I had said, but I thought of it on the staircase or on the elevator leaving. The famous expression, but you got it. Good.
I'll keep that in mind.
Infrastructure, chief financial steward. Boy, let me ask some general questions. Who's the best leader you ever worked for?
I believe my last boss prior to this role was an outstanding leader. He led with a lot of transparency, and he gave us a lot of autonomy without micromanaging. And those are some skills that I've seen across the board in terms of good leaders. He just gave us the leash to do what we wanted to do.
That's a good answer. What's the best thing he ever said to you?
Man, some of the best feedback he ever gave me was a little bit of constructive criticism in when I'm coming to meetings and I'm doing a lot of presentations, really read the room and understand what the audience wants. I know a lot of other engineers come in with a lot of numbers and data, and sometimes you need that human to human connection. So that's something I've been working on.
What was the occasion of him saying that? Had you just done that boo-boo?
We had just finished presenting to a couple of really high VPs on a product that we had just released, and it was accepted really happily. But one of the things that we did in that meeting was we really engaged with our customers, really engaged with the VPs, and he thought that was good work. So he wanted to kind of reinforce that was a good thing that happened.
And that's another thing that made him a good boss. When you did a good job, he told you about it.
Yeah, exactly. Reinforce the good behavior.
That's a good bullet point for good bosses. Anyway, for you folks at home, you should be prepared to talk about good managers and bad managers, and why and how you interacted with them and what you were able to do to make things better or not. There's 1,000 questions from that little ball of wax. What kind of manager, what kind of leader do you think you are?
I think.
Let me ask you another question. Tell me about. This is just a factual question. In what parts of your job are you a leader, and who are the followers? Forget the vocabulary.
Oh, that's a tough question. I'll say that in my role, I do a lot of advising to, like I mentioned earlier, these senior partner level folks. So whenever I get big assignments working on some of the financial strategy that we're pursuing, I am in charge of, leading some of the investigation that goes on what is our, historic spending been? What are we looking for?
Yeah, leading an investigation. I'm talking about leading other people. I'm sorry if that wasn't
okay.
clear.
Let me think of a different example. Okay. I'm actually really involved with the inclusion and diversity space at ExxonMobil and working on some of that. So being a thought leader in that space has me working on a lot of projects, investigating.
I don't want thought lead. I don't want you to lead thoughts. I want you to tell me about times you've led actual human beings.
I will have to think of a good example for that since I don't have direct reports.
You've got it on your resume, okay?
So I work with other planners similar in my position, and I kind of.
Have you ever led a team or a project?
Things like this attrition study, things like our financial studies. Those are projects that I'm leading in organization with my other planners and other peers. But that's been really informal leadership, and it's not been formal. I have reports that are reporting to me and things like that.
Okay, that's an acceptable way to, they're not looking for your answer to be a brag point or a plus point. They're interested in what kind of leader you are, not how many leadership roles you've played. That's baked into the application. I mean, they can figure out how you've done. The actual interview question is to see how well you can answer questions. It says here, executive track ExxonMobil placed on informal leadership track with escalated management responsibilities deemed to have executive level potential. Well, if that's true, what are some of those escalated management responsibilities?
Yeah, so my current role is a good example of that, where typically our individual contributors don't do a lot of the financial analysis and they don't have insight into a lot of the budgets and things like that. So working with senior leaders.
I'm lost. Okay, you haven't contextualized this.
My current role where I engage with a lot of leaders is the first step in that executive track is working on this planning and strategy role is the first step in the executive track. So the leadership responsibilities, by that I mean working on financials, presenting to leaders on the current financial state and the strategy that we're pursuing. That's what I mean by that. to contextualize.
Do you understand that, John?
Yeah, I think I do.
Well, John's smarter than I am, but the people on the admissions committee are not.
Gotcha.
Where does ExxonMobil fit in with, what are some of its peer companies, if there are any?
Yeah, Chevron, Shell, BP, those are the big ones. And there's some smaller.
Has that got a name, like one of those things that keep, like the big four, or the big six, sort of?
There's no real name for that categorization. I guess big oil is the closest thing that I've heard.
Yeah, big oil, yeah. All right. And to the extent you can, how would you compare ExxonMobil to those other companies in terms of how they're doing, how the stock is doing, what projects they're working on, what the popular culture, what the inside feeling is among professionals about their reputation?
That's a great question. I'd say that from a cultural perspective, they're all very, very massive organizations, so very hierarchical. So that's something that they all have in common. In terms of the priorities that they're pursuing, I know BP and Shell, being European companies, started working on green energy a lot earlier than Chevron and Exxon, but recently we've been catching up. And in terms of projects that we're pursuing, I think we're all pretty active in the same spaces, albeit, as I mentioned, Exxon and Chevron being more traditionally oil-oriented.
Yeah. Could you order those just in terms of size? You can size either by sales or number of employees.
I'd say Chevron and Exxon are about neck and neck at the very top, and very closely followed by Shell, then BP.
So it's pretty close. They're really four amigos of
very close, yeah.
Of the petroleum business. I noticed you. What did you do after college? What was your first job after college?
I started working as a business analyst at ExxonMobil. They're working on more analytics.
Tell me why you joined ExxonMobil.
The opportunity to work on a project that mattered, working on things that mattered in the green space really excited me. Obviously, we're only really getting to that space now, but the thought of that really excited me.
They're interested in how you make a decision. So you have to say, my senior year in college, I was going on the job market. It was a good year or a bad year for a job. I met the ExxonMobil people at a campus. My first meeting with them was at a campus, 10-minute one-on-one. And I was impressed by this and this. You get it?
Absolutely. Can I retry that one?
Yeah.
Okay. So the reason I chose ExxonMobil was in part by some of the interests I had during college. I interned at PricewaterhouseCoopers, and I was doing internal tech consulting there. I realized that I wanted to have more of an impact and work on work that really was more tangible than just tech consulting. So from there, I decided, I met with some folks at Exxon. I had some friends who worked there, so I got to hear about their experience and really learned more about the value proposition that energy companies were adding to the world. So that really excited me. And then I started recruiting with them and was really happy with the kind of culture and kind of engagement that I had with them. So,
how far did you go with the other companies in terms of exploring them as a place to work, the other oil majors?
I recruited with all of them. I knew energy was a very big space and very,
Okay, so you could do the world a favor here, and you could, believe me, you could do these companies a favor. After going through, I'm not kidding. They would pay a consultant like $2 million to get this information, right, John? After interviewing with all four of them, why did you choose Exxon? They're dying to know that, because the other three companies lost you, I take it, right?
Yeah, Exxon has a really good value proposition of moving people throughout the company and developing them. So it was the career-long development that really excited me. And obviously,
what about touch and feel? When I interviewed with Exxon, it was I interviewed with two guys. One guy was a tech guy, and one guy was a management guy, and they were really friendly and interested in me and blah blah blah. When I interviewed at Chevron, I was interviewed by a contracted professional interviewer. And, I'm making this up, but can you answer the question that way?
Do you think it's risky to potentially put down the other companies, or?
No, but yeah, one of the things that the interview is really concerned about is how you make decisions.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very good point. Okay, yeah. When I recruited with Exxon,
Also, it's valuable to be able to put down companies in a nice way. That's one of the things you'll learn at Harvard Business School, is how to say you're fired in a nice way.
Interesting. Okay.
That's one of their required first-year courses, firing people and not having them hate you.
Interesting. Would you like me to try that one again?
Yes, I would.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, when I recruited with Exxon, the process was a lot more engaging, and there was a lot more touch points with various senior managers and various leaders in the company.
Well, tell me what was the process? Before I got hired at Exxon, I had 3 encounters. One was on campus, and this happened, and one was they invited me back to the company, and that happened.
So the lead recruiter at from Exxon, who came to UT Austin, he heard about me from one of the other interns, and he sought me out. So it was very much a very flattering thing that they reached out to me, and throughout the process, it really felt like they were pursuing me. And it's always nice to get wine and dined, especially as a senior in college. That experience was very much very engaging and very personal, which is something that I value.
That was based on your contact in the company. That's not their standard operating procedure, or is it?
It was something that I had some peers who had worked in the company and had put in the name for me without me even knowing. So yeah, it's definitely not something I would say is a universal experience, but more often than not, you do get the personal connection at Exxon.
Sure. So I had friends there. They had put in the word for me. The people, the recruiters sought me out, took me out to dinner, and made it seem like they were chasing after me. So that was a big reason. And then more substantive reasons were, I spoke to my friends who worked there. They reported A, B, and C. When I went to visit, I noticed this. And then meanwhile, what did the other companies do?
Okay.
Let's hear the answer for what the other companies did.
Yeah, so with the other companies, it was a lot less personal, a lot less engaging. So I had interviews with them, and I was fortunate to visit the campus. I felt the Exxon a lot warmer, and I felt the other campuses were a little bit more, a little bit more corporate, if you will, and just the collaborative.
Okay, well, suppose someone from Chevron calls you and says, "Hey, we're doing a kind of a loss assessment here. We're interested in why people that we recruited didn't take a job with us and instead went to other petroleum majors. Could you help us out here? What did we do wrong? Why didn't we get you?"
A big part of it was definitely the various touch points and the various engagements that I had with Chevron employees. It didn't feel as personal. I didn't feel as wanted. Would this be a good time to talk about me being a current recruiter of Exxon and some of the things that I do in that space? Or is that selling?
That's selling.
Okay. So we'll avoid that.
And it's on your resume.
Yeah.
Well, okay, but we'll take it up as another question. Tell me what you do as a recruiter for Exxon. What's your role?
Yeah, in short form, it's attending the career fairs. It's holding presentations and really engaging with current prospective students.
Do a lot of people? Do you face a lot of just antipathy towards oil companies as being the big bad wolf?
It's really interesting. This year, I personally interviewed about 15 candidates, and every single one of them asked about what we're doing in the renewable space. So I don't know if it's antipathy as much as it's really excitement and interest in this new space.
Yeah, good. The fact that renewables is a hot topic, and that's a good basis for a lot of answers. Like what's new at this company, or what would you say to describe ExxonMobil to your classmates? You go, well, it's a major petroleum company, And what's really new and exciting about it is we're got this whole project on sustainability.
Mm-hmm.
So that was exciting about it. What can you give me? Yeah, this is a question that everybody should be able to do. It comes in many different forms. Could you give me a roadmap of what you want to do after business school? Like, what would you want your first job to be? And then what would you want your second job to be? And then, you know, what is your, you know, where do you see your career culminating?
That's a really good question. I think post MBA, I'd really want to put the skills that I've learned into good use and working at a leading management consulting company. So I'm thinking,
why do you want to do that?
I think it would give me the chance to work on some of the sustainability issues that matter to me across companies. So I'd get to see different environments and get to practice strategy in different environments, be more well-rounded in that space. From there, I use that knowledge.
How much do you know about management consulting?
I know a fair amount. A lot of my friends are working for some of these consulting companies, so I really got to engage with them and network with them and see what a day in the life of a consultant would be.
Good.
So I've networked with these.
So you graduate HBS and you join a big consulting company. That happens. That's not pie in the sky, friends. That that happens.
Mm-hmm.
Although, okay, John, this is just between me, you, and the world here. If you're at Harvard Business School and you got a job at even McKinsey, Bain, or BCG, your peers at Harvard Business School view that outcome as A, B, or C. If you understand the question. It's the reputation of consulting firms among real elites, to wit, your class at Harvard Business School.
Interesting.
John, can't hear you.
I was muted. So what I'm going to say is this. I think those are prestigious jobs. They're highly selective jobs. They're lucrative jobs. You're going to work with the best people you can ever work with. And the truth is, it's like earning a second graduate degree from another prestige world-class school.
Yeah, but you haven't answered the question. What are the real sharp guys at HBS think about working for McKinsey?
I think they think that's a temporary step on a road to a big leadership job or a strategy job in a company.
Yeah, that's true. I'm not trying to diss McKinsey. My point is, I think among business school kids right now, most people want to get involved with startups or start their own company. That just seems to be where the action is. That was almost unheard of 10 years ago. And people have started companies in business school and sold those companies for lots of money 10 years later. Okay, that's just the general information. Let's get back to you, Murdal. So you joined McKinsey, and then what's the next step on your roadmap?
Yeah, from there, learning some of those skills, as John mentioned, taking that second master's degree, I'd love to pivot then back into the energy industry and kind of lead some of these renewable projects and initiatives.
Well, give me an example of, do you know anyone at Exxon Mobil who went to business school, worked for a consulting firm, and then got the job you said you just want?
That's a good question. I'll have to go do the research on that. But there are people who have done the corporate strategy route and then pivoted into renewables. Our current head of renewables, the president of our carbon capture organization, went that route and grew up in the company doing that. So the MBA to McKinsey to renewables, that is more of a, as you mentioned, that's more of a rarity, and that renewables part comes more in the startup phase. But yeah, I will keep that in mind and find some.
Okay, that's good.
Pros who've done
Your
that.
answer is good enough, even if it's it doesn't exist in reality. It sounds right, which is more important to them.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, what 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 would you do if what would you do if you didn't go back to energy? Could you see another industry that would interest you?
I think going back to my tech background, I was really interested in college for a reason. I mean, I really enjoy the problem solving, and I think tech is working on a lot of really important problems to solve right now. So there's definitely a lot of sustainability in that space as well, and I could definitely see a future working in tech.
Good. Okay. So
Should I be more specific there?
What's that?
Should I be more specific in talking about that?
Well, sometimes they'll say, look, this is a general advice. For any general statement you make in your interview, you need to have examples. You should also go into your interview, I keep saying this, with like 3 role models. Sometimes the question is, tell me someone we both know that you admire and why. So you should have an answer for, tell me someone we both admire. Tell me someone we both know that you admire. And then it's just tell me someone at your company that you admire. And then have answers for who's the best leader you've ever worked with. And then how you've dealt with managers who were difficult, how you've dealt with difficult managers, and how you've disagreed with people. Okay, we're gonna, this is also critically important, and we're going to finish with this. It's very often the first question, and I'd be curious to see how you can handle it now that we've crawled through your whole story here. Hey there, how are you? Could you walk me through your resume?
Yes, Andy. So I graduated the University of Texas at Austin in 2018 with a computer science degree. During that process, I was really involved with tech and really some software development work. I interned at PwC where I did tech consulting. I realized from there very quickly that my focus really wanted to be more on strategy and more impactful work. So I transitioned to a full-time job at Exxon Mobil, where I currently work. I've completed that transition from tech to strategy, and I work advising some senior partner level type folks to their budgets and some of their priorities moving forward, past the pandemic. So really excited about that. Outside of work, I'm really involved with some volunteer efforts as an AP computer science teaching assistant.
Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Good.
Outdoors, blah, blah, blah.
Let me just get back to this because it's critical. And I still don't fully get it. Could you tell me what you do now?
I will think of a more concise and clear way to say it. Yeah.
It's critical. That's often the first question. It's not even a question. It's almost like the interview hasn't started. They say, hey, good to meet you. How are you? What do you do? What do you do now?
So is it not clear if I say I advise my managers on financial priorities and initiatives and make sure that they're not exceeding their budget?
The answer is, I've got a title that's called Strategy and Planning Advisor at Exxon Mobil. And what that really means is I'm a kind of in-house consulting shop to the group at the company that's doing this, this, and this. So I often write reports or help them or answer questions that they have, whatever the truth is.
Gotcha.
You get the difference?
Yeah, absolutely. Yours is a lot clearer. Yeah.
I'm making it up.
There you have it. You got more than 30 minutes. At Harvard, you'll only get 30 minutes. Other places you might get a little bit more because it might be done by an alum who's interested. Who knows? But wow, I think that was very fascinating to me to listen in on.
Good. I hope that was helpful. If by the way, if anybody else wants a on-the-air mock interview, just write to Poets and Quants. We'll do an. I think these are valuable. Right,
Yes.
John?
And we are in that season. Those of you who were invited to interview this week at Harvard Business School will be doing your interviews from I guess mid-February to early March is when all the interviews will occur. They'll all be virtual on Zoom. So there is that as well. I think, are there any things that we should keep in mind when you do a Zoom interview as opposed to an in-person interview?
There's one thing is the background.
Ah, right.
Don't have a collection of Playboy centerfolds on the room where you keep your Playboy centerfolds. Don't do the mock interview there. Okay.
Oh my. Yeah. Should you be in front of a book-lined library like?
No, you should have a blank wall like I have. You see,
like
I even find that picture behind you distracting, even though it's perfectly reasonable.
There you have it. Okay.
That's a small point.
All right. Well, good luck to you. And for all of you out there who are about to step into an interview, good luck.
And if anybody wants another mock interview, we like doing them. All
righty. Well, have a wonderful weekend, everybody. This is John Byrne with Poets and Quants. You've been watching Fridays with Sandy.